It's time again for another installment of The Basics, and on today's show, in regards to the Star Trek CCG, I want to talk about espionage cards. This is a card type that I haven't really given much exposure to on this show, but I want to talk a bit about them today and how to use them in a deck. Let's get started, shall we? Now, right off the bat, any espionage card is an event card. You would play it on your own turn as you would any other type of event. Now, I'm going to answer a question that some people have right off the bat, and that is you do not need treaty cards to use espionage. The whole point of the espionage card is to have one affiliation able to now attempt a mission that was exclusive to a different affiliation. So, for example, the Romulan on Klingon plays on any Klingon mission. Your Romulan personnel may now attempt this mission. Discard after mission completed. These cards can help dual or tri-affiliation decks. You can accomplish missions quicker, especially if you have two different affiliations and their ships at different points on the spaceline. The problem with espionage cards is you have to have your deck set up as an espionage type deck. You have to have multiple copies of any of the espionage cards depending on the amount of affiliations and the matching affiliations in your deck. This takes up a lot of space in a draw deck, because if you have two affiliations, you're going to want 4 copies of each type of espionage, so that's at least 8 cards, if not more. You have to really choose wisely if you want an espionage type deck with multiple affiliations. It gets a bit tricky, and in some cases, even though you don't need the treaty cards, you would want to stock some of the treaty cards to make the transition of multiple affiliations go a bit smoother in the game. I've experimented with espionage cards early on when the game first came out in the first bunch of years. Personally, I found they're a waste of time. Some players do like them. I have played against a couple friends and tournament opponents over the years that enjoy the espionage cards, but they did use a significant amount of them in their decks and their side decks, which would be the Q's tent, to make them 100% effective. You're not limited with affiliations. You get different espionage cards like Federation on Klingon, Romulan on Bajoran, Romulan on Cardassian, Dominion on Romulan, Klingon on Federation, Dominion on Klingon, Cardassian on Bajoran, Cardassian on Federation. No matter what kind of a deck you're building, you will find an espionage card that will work. But as I said, that deck will have to be made to suit the espionage cards and not the other way around. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of espionage cards and I don't currently use them in any of my decks, I would encourage you to experiment with espionage cards in maybe a lesser deck. Build a dual affiliation deck with a host of espionage cards and some treaties. See how it works for you first before you pass judgment like I did. Remember, I used espionage and treaty cards for a few years before I decided to dump them and keep them out of my decks. That's all for today. Have a great day, everybody.